as early as Ada Sprint, um, uh, the students were already performing. I was handling three Ada Spring classes, guys. Imagine three Ada Spring classes, and all of them, 80%, are trying to impress each other. In a way, they're very competitive, but the competitiveness is not
Hindi
evil.
toxic.
Yeah, it's not
Hindi
toxic
toxic.
like that, and they encourage each other. And
Yeah.
we want that kind of culture with you
Mhm.
guys amongst sections. It's just that very unfortunate that there we are in
Yeah.
an online setup and you cannot see each other, meet each other,
Mhm.
and socialize. But ideally, that should have been the case. That's why when you say studio culture, 50% of that is all about the social aspect when you are in an architecture school. Now, going back to Kyle and their batch, they are the first batch wherein we tried to implement the design exploration stream wherein the design projects are more experimental, wherein the design projects are more creative. And for a guinea batch, for a guinea pig, they performed really, really well. And it became like a benchmark for the other um, DE batch, so the DE thesis streams. In fact, during their, uh, what do you call that, final defense, we invited outsiders, practicing architects, etc. And then everyone was inspired to do design exploration without really knowing what it's all about. So Kyle also is our he also topped the board exam, number three. When was it again, Kyle? Anong year?
Um, 2019. Start of
2019.
2019. Yeah.
Ayun. So
2019.
so this is one way to prove that you can be creative and at the same time you can also excel in the pragmatic way. Do you get it? So because what we're doing in the DE stream, it's not per se um, apple to apple um, tawag dito, apple to apple lessons wherein I give it to you literally. It really trains you how to think creatively
Yes.
and more intuitively. So it practices your critical thinking. So Kyle is now teaching at Foundry. It's a popular review center. They have a very hip review center somewhere in Quezon City designed by Jason Buensalido. And they tap really good teachers. And I think Sir Nan is part of it, no? Sir Nan de la
Yes.
Paz.
Yes.
Okay. So
He.
later on, when you prepare for the board exam, probably Foundry can be GPT. Foundry can be an option for you. So there are several out there: JPT, Foundry. What's the other one in
Dep.
CDEP,
Mm.
in UP, etc. But at the end of the day, it's really all about your mental
Yes.
preparedness.
Yes. That's
And
true.
yeah, so I don't know if maybe just a side note lang. Although syempre I don't encourage everyone to do the same because I was supposed to take the board exam a certain year, may makasama ako. And and what happened was when I was lining up in the PRC, they stopped me from applying because some of my papers are erroneous. Like there are some discrepancies in the letters. So I was so bummed. So I just told myself I'm gonna take the board exam the following year. And the board exam in the Philippines, they're offered twice a year. So so like 1 month or 2 months before the board that middle board exam, I just thought, what if I try to take the board exam, take it to fail, only to try it out, only to see how it's like to be in a board exam environment. So, but keep in mind, I already had I attended a review center already. Just that I got delayed. So so I took it. I took the exam, and pumasa. So I don't have to take the exam anymore. So alang naman nabawiin ko kasi gusto ko mag-take na exam the following year, di ba?
So maybe because I was relaxed, I wasn't too pressured, and
Yes,
maybe
yes. That's
also
also
I had
important.
I don't know what you call it. I had stock knowledge from the review, but don't
Mhm.
get pressured, guys, about the exam. You need to take it with a relaxed mind, and
Yeah.
yeah, maybe you can share more, Kyle.
Yeah, ano din, side note lang din kasi 'di ba important yung logbook, you're gonna log the hours. Kasi may nilabas na si PR BOA, which is yung Board of Architecture. May nilabas sila na memo before, maybe 2018, gano'n. Yung hours before you graduate, hindi na credited. Okay? So, kung itatry mo yung 2 years while you're studying, hindi siya i-credit at all ni PRC.
Paano yung
Okay?
apprentice ng binil pala?
Hindi na credited yon kasi ang reasoning ni PRC, ni PR BOA from the mouth of the commissioner. Kasi syempre, nung nag-ano kami, nag-top 10 and then kinausap niya yung top 10 and then kinukwento niya yung bagong memo. Sabi niya kasi, yung mga students daw, hindi daw sinesweldohan, binibigyan daw ng allowance. But the very bad thing is, maraming practices daw, oh, naka-record. May mga practices daw kasi na graduate na yung apprentice nila, they still refer to them as students. And therefore, students sila, bibigyan namin ng allowance. So, hindi niya sinesweldohan, binibigyan ng allowance. So, below minimum wage pa yon. So, ang sabi ni PR BOA, this isn't good for our practice, di ba? We should elevate our practice. So, ang dapat, pag nag-apprentice ka, graduate ka, and you get your full salary, talagang sweldo, na at least nandun ka sa minimum wage or better. 'Di ba? Kasi
So
you're not part-time.
yung apprentice natin won't be credited. Pero it's still being
Yeah,
offered.
it won't be credited. Baka magka-problem pa with the PR BOA if chinek yung hours tapos biglang kulang ka ng 160 hours, di ba? So, yun lang yung note ko for everyone pagka naghahabol na kayo ng hours. Kasi yung 160 na yan, kala mo 160 hours lang yan, but malaki din yan kung hinahabol mo yung susunod na exam kagad, yung
But
160 na yan. Ibig
they
sabihin,
don't have a choice because it's offered in school, part of the
yeah,
program.
kaya ang use the name of the school to get into a nice firm then to see how they work, but the difference with apprentice and the difference between doing an actual apprentice work, of course it depends on the company. Kaso ang na-realize ko doon, a certain company can't super duper trust you with a long stretch of work because you're only there for 160 hours. But if you're there to commit a year or two, they're really gonna give you a lot of things, di ba? Na you can get to do in that 1 to 2 years span, di ba? So, may ganung factor din na when you do an apprentice, your apprentice, it's not really going to be that same as your apprenticeship. Kasi of course, 'di ba, if you're only going to work for, let's say you're going to work for me for 160 hours, hindi kita bibigyan ng working drawings for my own project kasi you still don't know my standards, you still don't know this. Baka may competition ako, I'll ask you to help me do a competition, yung mga ganon, which is also a lot of fun, but you won't be able to get the whole thing with the 160 hours. So that's the thing. Okay, about the exams, yung minention na something that I can give, all that it is the state of mind talaga. Like, sabi ni Sir Jim, di ba, yung state of mind, he was very relaxed. Ako, yung wallpaper ko sa phone, nakalagay na top 1 ako, ganun. Tapos, hindi ako nasistress sa exam, excited pa ako i-take.
Kyle, Kyle
Tapos,
really
it's
prepared
about attract.
to be on top.
Ha? Yeah.
You really
Yeah,
prepared to be on top, yeah.
yeah, prepared na ako na tanggapin yung top 1. So, yung ganun na optimism, yung claiming it, attracting the universe, that's very important. Okay? Kasi you really attract the universe. No matter what you say, yun. Pupunta at pupunta sa'yo, di ba? Kung madamot ka, dadamot din lahat ng tao sa'yo, di ba? Kung hindi ka madamot, hindi madamot lahat ng tao sa paligid mo.
And
So,
you wanted to teach in Binil, di ba? When you have a
yeah,
math.
but I need to have masterals daw eh.
Pati
Daw.
si Brioso, he's also his batchmate. He's doing a lot of
Yeah,
activities out.
twin ko yun, si Gab.
Baka next week, next term yata, next year. I'm not sure. Anyway, so
Yeah.
I've introduced Kyle already. Just introduce
Yes.
Kyle of what we're doing, why you
Okay.
guys are puyat. I asked them to create a site section of their social
Okay.
site. and then
Sorry, off.
of their chosen site. As since
Okay.
it's pandemic, they're not allowed to choose other
Mm-hmm.
site except their neighborhood. It can be their own property. It can be somewhere near their house, so that
Mm-hmm.
there won't be an issue on off-campus
Going there.
displacement. So yeah, and then I asked them to create a site section, um, introducing the textures, the properties. I think you've done this somehow in your batch, Kyle.
Mm-hmm.
Right now it's all about documentation in terms of the site
Okay,
section.
okay, okay.
And then I haven't uploaded the video presentation on the good examples of site documentation or site inventory, which they
Mm-hmm.
already completed last week. Uh,
Yes.
I can upload a Zoom meeting last week, but initially I was planning to create a YouTube video showing the best examples of last week's session. So, but I probably can share it with you later on offline. Si Aaron
Pwede
wala.
mo din actually share sa kanila yung may isang workshop kasi akong na-attendan about that site inventory. I'm just looking for my book. I can actually show yung just a glimpse kung ano yung nilalaman niya para meron din silang further idea if they need to refine something, di ba? Wait
Hmm.
lang. Where is the...
Anyway,
Yes. Yeah.
Tracy na si Aaron.
I'll message him, sir.
Okay.
So it's it was a workshop with AA streetwear. They called it streetwear. So there were 10 groups
You can
and
if
they
you
were
can make
assigned to
him bigger screen. How do you do that? Multiple share siguro
pipin ako.
para oh,
Pipin ako.
pipin ka. Paano ba 'yun?
Sir,
Yeah.
pa-accept now si Aaron.
You know, pag late ka sa actual class, you need to treat the class pizza. Si Aaron.
SNR dapat. Oh,
Tenar.
ASMR.
Uh,
Wait, I'll check the list kasi
Either you
like
dance,
there was
you sing and
yeah.
dance, or you treat everyone pizza. Wait
Yes.
lang, paano ba ipin?
Double click, right
depende
click
na
yung
yun sa
upper
user
right,
mo.
tapos pin, I think.
Add pin?
I'm not sure. Wait, check ko nga give me a minute, check ko online kung meron nito. Kasi dapat meron din ito online eh. Kasi it's AA, they put their stuff, AAVS Cebu Street. Para pwede ko ma-explain.
Kyle kasi attended the AA workshop in Cebu. For everyone's information, AA is a school in London. It stands for Architectural Association. It's like the Hogwarts of architecture. Like a lot of the big name in the architecture practice go there, to either teach there or Zaha did went there. She graduated from the AA. And then sino pa ba? Pero sobrang dami sikat na galing doon. So they do this workshop overseas. They did one in Singapore, and sila Baksia, he's an architect based in Cebu, invited the AA to do a workshop and attend. And during the time, Kyle was a student. He attended the same workshop. So just in case the same activity or event will happen, I encourage you guys to take advantage of that. But you have to pay. Medyo mahal lang siya mahal siya. Parang it's like how long was the workshop, Kyle? 2 weeks?
12 days. 12
12 days.
days. Tapos it was 40,000 pesos yata yung tuition fee. Tapos
Did you
may
have to
pa
pay?
yun.
Kasama
You
ba
get
yung
your own
board and
lodging, ganun. Ha?
Kasama
Sorry?
board and lodging doon? Wala.
No, wala.
Tuition lang yun.
Yeah, tuition lang yun.
Yaman.
Which in fact, I think they even spend more because they use the visiting schools. Tawag nila visiting school research program. So they do a workshop and then those attending the workshop, inuutusan nila to do research. So may agenda yung nag-host ng workshop. So parang give and take din. they also invest in the research then. Kasi if that's 40K per student, there were like 20-30 students. Tapos 1.2 for example. And then may 5 na mentors na pumunta doon, 5 tutors na pumunta doon. That's not enough for them for that and lodging and plane ticket from London. It's really not. So they actually spend to do it. And that way, yun yung investment nila for a research. And parang ganito, in the end, may book that they don't even give it to you. You have to buy it. So, yun yung research. And yung share ko na yung nangyayari. Like, yung mga na-research, like, isa sa mga inventory, let's say, figure ground map, of course, yun yung pinaka-basic of them all.
Nagawa nila yan.
Yeah.
Good job.
Tapos, may mga pattern and rhythm. So like ito, they have diagrams. You see the diagrams. I don't have the digital file, sorry. Like you see the buildings dito sa gitna, 'di ba? And then from there they projected the buildings. Tas merong sariling code kung what it means, and then they study the architecture
Can
around
you
of what it
screenshot
means.
those pages for us, and then probably I can share it in their group page so
Yeah,
that
sure. I will send it. And even like ano ba to? Mga built fabric, paano yung built fabric, what they see in solids and voids. So kasi yung the whole street has may mga like these arcades, and then from there they study ano yung mga solids and ano yung voids dun sa may mga facades, elevation, on plan yon. And then like kasi of course may open spaces as voids, di ba? Merong mga buildings as solid, so yun tinitingnan din yung mga ganong bagay-bagay, even as edges and boundaries. Like ito yung group namin, ginawa namin edges and boundaries. So like we were looking at how roads can become edges or boundaries, 'di ba? Paano yung separation ng everything, paano yung mga edges becomes a network where people can go to and where people walk. That's how it interacts. Like ito, look at this one in diagram, how it interacts to the street level. You see, they're all the same building, but there's something different with the same box, di ba? And it changes entirely the experience. And you get to learn that from just studying the site. Na, oh, ito pala yung mix of experience that is given by the site, di ba? And then we have road permeability, alin yung madaling tawiran, alin yung hindi okay tawiran, 'di ba? Parang sabihin natin, sige nga tawid ka ng EDSA, 'di ba? Ang hirap tumawid ng EDSA, it's really a boundary versus tumawid ka lang ng kalsada dyan sa village kung nasan ka nakatira. It's not exactly a boundary, 'di ba? Yung mga ganong items tayo. May scale, you can study scale, like how big or how small the architecture is versus yung surroundings, 'di ba? And kasi yung sa thesis ko was about sound. So there's also they call scale of sound then. So that's also very interesting. Like if sabihin natin yung tao naglalakad yung footsteps, that's a scale of the sound for a person. Kasi imagine mo yung sound ng eroplano, iba yung entirely yung scale of sound niya. 'Di ba? Parang may ganong idea anyway. And then you can check different buildings, paano yung scaling nila from one another, open spaces, water, greenery, 'di ba? Those are the things that can be studied. And marami mga ganong aspects, mobility, etc. na when it all comes together, even activity, when it comes together na, you have a data set, parang ganon. Meron kang, you're creating your base, parang ganon, of the cake that you're making. So, pagka nakuha mo na yung base na yun, nakuha mo na yung pastry na base, you can start carving your cake. Parang ganon yung nangyayari. So, yung architecture natin is always reasoned, 'di ba? Logically reasoned, 'di ba? But I wouldn't say na lahat 'yan na yung sobrang reasoning, bakit mo nilagay yan? Kasi merong ganito, ganun, ganun. Yung hindi naman super duper duper logic na point to point logic, but the idea has to make sense. They all have to be cohesive with each other, 'di ba? Like how kay Architect Jim, yung panorama house niya, I would want to share the panorama house. Um, he with the site, he didn't have any views. So what he did, he made his own enclosure for the entire house, and then he made views within the house, not just looking within its own enclosure. Tapos nag-cut out siya ng mga views from the exterior na nakikita to be able to frame the experience of those living inside, 'di ba? So that's one way of using your site to create your architecture, 'di ba? Something really unique. And the way for one to say if your architecture is really built for the site is pagka tinanggal ko yan sa lote mo, at nilipat ko dun sa lote sa kabila sa malayo, gagana pa ba yan the same way? Ganon. So if it doesn't really work the same way, then probably hindi mo siya dinesign also with the site in mind, di ba? So ayun, just yun yung little sharings ko with that. I will share some of the things that I got from the AA streetwear para meron din kayong references and you could see yung quality of diagrams then and the ideas that are being talked about doon. Ayun.
Okay, so that it's really a fascinating experience for Kyle, and maybe you can, like I said earlier, I think sharing those pages will be very useful for us,
Yeah.
for the students especially,
Mhm.
and I can sense that some of them are interested in that, and the ideas that you mentioned about sound just by the footsteps alone is very
Mhm.
intriguing, and right now it might not be very directly applicable to the
Yeah.
studio project that we are doing. That sensibility of the sensibility of taking note of the footsteps probably can translate into something else
Mhm.
that is related to the study stream that they are doing. Because for the information of Kyle, what we're
Yes.
doing is all about propagating vegetation. I don't know if you saw the Zoom.
Okay.
Did you see it?
Hindi ko siya napanood honestly, but narinig ko yung propagating vegetation and interesting yun.
So in a way, it uh, it feeds on the plantito plantita culture happening
Yes.
or trend. Um, so but what I want to happen is that it should go beyond plants as objects because
Mm-mm.
we have very
Mm-mm.
good examples of architecture that are sort of um, uh, cradling plants or vegetation, flora and fauna, etc. We have exemplary examples from Botrongya, a lot of Vietnamese architects
Mm-mm.
also
Mm-mm.
following
Yes, yes.
also. And I'm sure probably in the next 5 years you see probably a Philippine architect doing the same thing. So, but I want them to avoid just copying what is there. I want them
Yeah.
to go beyond what can be done when they have this certain topic. During the time of Kyle, guys, since it was face to face and I was still very excited and it was still new to me and I was still relatively a new professor. So my energy level was so high. I wanted to replicate what's being done abroad wherein I allow each student to propose their unique topic. And then, but of course, not all students will be invested in school. You know, some of them are just doing it because they want to finish. Some of them are just doing it because they just accidentally ended up in the section. So, but most of them are actually invested. But one thing I find very difficult to replicate now, especially online, even if it's going to be face to face, is the time that you spend and the energy that you spend, and also the creative juices. You really get drained. For example, one student will propose when she goes to the site, she finds a lot of bote or junk shop, etc. So that's one topic. Then another one will propose a topic about surfboards. So the topic was so diverse. It was very taxing on the mentor because I was also trying to encourage other professors to do the same because you need to think with the student. That's why now I created just one topic for everyone, and then you just have different approaches. So somehow, when we compare each project, it will be easier to compare basically, as compared to somebody that's doing one topic to to another that is doing another topic. So it's very difficult. So now everyone is doing the same project. It's just that somehow there's an expectation that you will develop it differently. The direction will be a little different from the others. And we already saw an evidence of that with the work of Tracy when she introduced those birds in her neighborhood. So that is one way to divert or veer away from the expected direction. So there. So as status quo, what I asked the students is to document the site. We had the basic pragmatic site inventory last week,
Mhm.
and I gave them a hint that what if you guys can already do the creative research as early as last week, and then Tracy was able to do that, and yeah, but it's supposed to be this week. So this week it's a hefty requirement wherein I asked them to create a creative research, an expansion of the site inventory, and and uh, and a site model. And the site model, the reason why I also posted the sun carving exercise of my design one student is for them to not necessarily copy but emulate. The only thing that I'm requiring from them for this week is to I just want to find out if they're going to position windows or openings. I want it. I want to find out if they have a basis for it. I'm not expecting them to compute for the the azimuth. I'm not asking them to map it using the sun diagram, etc. But if they attempted to do so, that would be very impressive. They get it. So basically, this is a very basic, uh, logic. I want to find out if there's a reason if they position the window on one side because it so and so. Um, that's everything that I want to find out. But I heard that some of them actually copied what they saw in YouTube. So they attempted to use the sun diagram uh, to carve the structure. But the purpose of this exercise is for them to have a reference already when they are developing the actual project, when they are developing the building project. So
Yes.
that
Mhm.
somehow it's already intuitive. Oh, I cannot place the window here because the sun is very uh, harsh on this side, etc. Just that intuition. That's all that I was asking. So, but I also advanced the requirement for the physical model. When you try to make a comment, Kyle, on the physical model, please keep in mind that um, the materials is irrelevant. The material is irrelevant. We're just looking at the
Yes.
quality and the idea behind. And not the idea. There's no idea behind that. It's just basically a physical, a site model. And then the sun carving, probably how they rationalize the fenestrations. For the side section, it's all about textures and the profile of uh, of the site that they chose. And because the purpose of this documentation is to enrich the proposal later on using the information and the conditions available in the surrounding in the immediate site. And then the creative research is basically to jumpstart what they uh, what they already think is a good topic for them, what they already think is expandable, and we are going to see if we can assess today if their topic is expandable or it has potential. So I am going to clarify some things also, and maybe Kyle can also share some light about it. The reason why the physical model is big, because last week they were asking if it can be smaller or it can be yeah, it can be smaller. Uh, but and then I think I shared my video dealing with the client showing a schematic design physical models in 1:50. I learned this from Yupango. And also when I was studying basically, because if you're working with a physical model, it's too small. I don't think you can really manipulate the spaces so much, because what we're doing with physical model is the reason why it has to be scaled, why it has to be a certain size. The bigger it is, the better, because we're trying to replicate what is already outside or what is already the actual scale, which is 1:1. So if it's going to be too small, the discrepancy between the actual one, which is the 1:1, and your model will be so big as compared to if you're working with the bigger model. You can really experience the space, you can really see the space, and then you can add more details to it so that you can really imagine how the space is going to envelop the users, how it's going to envelop the people who are going to use it. So that is the reason why we are working with bigger size models. The smaller size models are okay if it's going to be just a site analysis. If it's going to be just about the massing of the place, if you're dealing with a massive macro site, wherein the coverage of the study is big. So having a smaller model, it's okay because you're dealing with just the massing. But if you're talking about the design itself, you're talking about the architecture project itself, wherein the details are very important, it needs to be big. And if you can work with an entourage, it is a human entourage, I mean, the better. So, yeah, ano pa ba? Also, um, not every week it's going to be like this. It was quite funny when I think it was Leia who asked last week, sabi niya, in a very,
Bakit sir? Ay,
in
sorry
a
po.
very, what do you call it? I thought she was crying already when she said, Sir, lahat
Yes,
yan
sir,
next
okay lang.
week. So,
Sorry, sir, nagulat ako.
no, it's okay, it's okay.
Happy birthday, Lea.
Oy,
Happy
happy
birthday,
birthday pala.
Happy
Thank you.
Happy
birthday.
Birthday.
Sir, birthday ko
Iya.
kasi ngayon, kaya
Happy
nagulat ako
birthday.
last week, yun lang.
Happy birthday.
Ah,
Okay.
Birthday,
No, it's
Iya.
okay. It's okay. It was really meant to be heavy.
sir, hindi niyo pinatulog siya sa birthday niya. Joke.
Oh, sorry. But so it was really meant to happen just for now. But it won't be like that every week. It's like jump starting that culture because um the demand of the profession is still the same even if you are practicing. So I and that's why we're setting that culture already. So yeah, so Kyle, you want to add something based on what I already said?
Mm, I think later na lang pagka nakita ko na yung
Yung work. Okay.
yeah.
So if you notice, I also want them to have a mindset that there's a lot to accomplish. And one of the students actually asked me if I can still move the deadline from today, and I said no because we are on a strict schedule, and I want to
Yes.
achieve a certain goal because some of the students have been with me for three state terms already, and
Yeah.
and then and then and and we weren't really able to achieve the goal, not just because of the pandemic, but because I'm still I try to manage my expectations. I also try to manage the deliverables because I know some of them take time to develop their critical thinking skills and
Yeah.
at the same time work on their deliverables in terms of quality.
Mhm.
So yeah, and but now I want them to be trained
Mhm.
to work with a schedule in mind. So because the professional life is the same, the outside world is running. You have a running deadline, um, and it's like trying to catch a train and then you miss the train, etc. So it's the same scenario as um, today's submission. So
Mhm.
I won't move the deadline, but you'll be given the chance to revise it for next
Mhm.
week. Okay, so I just want to see where you guys are at now, and then we
Mhm.
are going to review it.
Birthday.
But I'm not gonna add more deliverables for this week, and you'll be given time to improve on it. Okay, so that's the purpose of the heavy load, so that you guys are immersed right away in the culture, and then at the same time, you can work within a specific, um, what do you call that? stressful schedule, but you'll be given, another chance to improve the work. So today, Kyle, we are going to review the creative research, the site model with the sun carving, and the site section. All right. Sige. And then next week will be just an improvement based on the comments that we provide today. Okay?
Ay,
Sige.
ano din, sometimes kasi yung dun sa creative research, it'll take, it could take time to get it right. Like, nung sa design 2 ako, sa Artlist 2, kay Sir Jim, it took me and my partner there half the term. So, nung midterms namin nakuha yung idea namin na gagawin namin. And then, it's a really frustrating 7 weeks you're getting it wrong all the time. So, there could be times when that happened. But then, if you already understand how the process works and how to actually parang, ganun pala yung way of thinking. Hindi naman sa way of thinking. Ganun pala yung idea to be able to, or the way, parang, ano yun, that's one of the methods to be able to create your ideas, ganon. Then yung mga susunod, it's so much easier. And then like really the first time is the hardest time to be able to get it right and to get it going. Parang kasi meron pang preconceived notions na it should be like this or it should be like that, yun. So we're trying to break away from the preconceived notions and we're trying to open up also kung ano yung possible, and parang we're just trying to open your eyes to be able to see it in a different way. So ayun, and then eventually if you see it that way na din, like when I design for projects, iba na yung talagang approach ko, and nade-develop talaga yung architecture, and even though very very young kami, ganun, yung work quality of work namin, it's something we're proud of. It's because of the way na we were trained from here on how they think, how to think actually, and then how to improve that idea, how to develop it further, and how to develop, ganun. And then yun, entirely yung process. So even making a mistake or trying to find out na hindi pala abot sa time, part yan ng process. So, don't be discouraged about it. Talagang kasama yan. Okay. Meron pa nga time nag-print ako ng malaki, tapos sabi ni Sir Jim, ba't ka pa nagpa-print yan? Hindi kailangan yan. Aba, nagastos ko mga ilang libo din dun sa print na yun. Yun lang yung sinabi.
Pero like I said, it's very true that sometimes even if you won't finish it, even though it seems useless, the experience behind it is more valuable than the things that you spent. I'll probably, a more direct example is I wonder why some students, they don't print out their work because they find it's a waste to print it if they're not sure yet. But test printing is actually part of the process to know the actual color, to see if it's going to be scaled, etc. So you really waste a lot of paper, but you won't be able to find out the proper way to do it unless you actually do it and make mistakes. So this is the time for you guys to make mistakes, immerse in the culture, and yeah. Totoong aso ba yan? Diyan practice. Totoong aso? Is it a real dog?
Yes, sir.
Oo, sir.
Oh, cute naman. Akala ko stuffed toy. Wala.
Oh, nabasa daw mga aso. Aso reveal.
Wala.
Yung
Pusa
pusa
ka
ni Sir.
Sir, yung pusa niyo, sir. Oh,
Ito, nasa tabi ko natutulog.
Sir, si Matcha ba ilabas ko na?
ay, nabasa
Alam niyo yung
na.
matcha? Ayun, oh. Okay. Bastos
Kaya
yung
kailangan din yan. Pang stress yun.
Bastos yung matcha ni ni Jericho eh.
Grabe, bite nga niya.
Ay, yung ahas mismo. Nandyan sa tabi mo.
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
No, it's in the cage.
Okay. So, okay, sige. Is Aaron here? But I don't see I don't see his camera on.
Hello, sir. Sorry.
Okay, what if we do it in reverse? We do the last guy first. And wait lang. Kasi I wasn't able to download their what do you call it? Their work because their deadline was exactly at 5:20. So,
I-share screen na lang nila.
gano'n na lang, share screen nyo na lang, guys. Sige, wait lang, Sino ba? Hindi pala to alphabetical, no?
Sa Big Sky, alphabetical, sir.
Idrius. Ikaw muna, Idrius. Sige, can you share your work? So let's go to your site section first. And then,